what is today? When's this come out? The 18th.
18th.
Yeah. So
it's
we
Janie's
are.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Janie. Love you, buddy.
What? It's weird. That's weird. Sounds like you're talking to a 5-year-old. Not the I love you part, the buddy part is kind of throws me off.
I know.
Throws me off a little bit. We're live, by the way.
We're live.
This is the BXG
We're looking
Podcast.
live.
It's pre-recorded, but
yeah,
you and I are.
We are live.
We are live. April 18th in the year of our Lord 2022, and we are but a scant few days away from the unbearable weight of massive talent, starring the debatably real, feasibly immortal, and possibly loud thespian philanthropist and American hero, Nicolas Cage. And tonight as we record, it is night as we record, we are going to discuss the life and times, the career of Nicolas Cage, formerly Nicolas Coppola. We'll get into that. And the way that I've broken it down here is into kind of 4 phases. His early career, the kind of golden age of Nick Cage, the golden age of Cage, the golden Cage, some would say, sort of between the years of 95 and then sort of 2007, 2008. His exile from Hollywood to straight VOD releases, bad investments, bad purchases, that sort of thing. And then his return, which I guess you could say is the unbearable weight of massive talent, but there's certainly a prelude to that, which we'll discuss. And then kind of take a look at, where we go from here. So let's dive in, shall we?
Let's do it.
To the reconnaissance. His early career, Nick Cage, then Nicolas Coppola, debuted in a TV pilot in 1981 and then appeared the next year, 1982, in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the last time he was accredited under the name Nicolas Coppola. Cage, the nephew of legendary director Francis Ford Coppola, changed his name to avoid conflict or accusations of nepotism. He broke through in 1987 with the Coen brothers directed Raising Arizona. He continued with Up and Down films until 1995's Leaving Las Vegas, in which he played a suicidal alcoholic and earned a Golden Globe, BAFTA, and Best Actor Academy Award, which kind of steps into the next phase. But Nick Cage, the early years.
I mean, obviously, knowing him from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, it's very that movie's, kind of a quintessential movie of, adolescence, things like that. But we still don't really know what we're getting with Nick Cage yet. We don't know what direction he's going. You don't even know if he's a good actor. We don't really know anything at this point about him at this stage. But then he does start to make himself known. Raising Arizona, that's a great movie. And then obviously winning the Academy Award has to be, when he wins all those awards for a character where he plays a suicidal alcoholic, which, probably is, a little weird at that time in his life to be playing and win the Academy Award, had to kind of put him in this weird headspace. And I think that's probably what leads him into, going away from doing maybe movies that have less of a, let's say less of a theatrical or a stage craft to them and more of a movie craft to them.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just going to read through his early credits after Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Valley Girl, Rumblefish, Racing with the Moon, The Cotton Club, Birdie, The Boy in Blue, Peggy Sue Got Married, Raising Arizona, 1987, Moonstruck, that's another classic Nick Cage movie, 1987, Vampire's Kiss, cult classic, Honeymoon in Vegas, Kiss of Death, a couple others, Up and Down, early career sort of deal, Red Rock West, Deadfall, some different things. And so that's kind of, he's making a name for himself. He's kind of leaving the Cohen or the Coppola name behind to kind of just be his own man. But as he moves out of that sort of early phases, I mean, this is a guy who's been acting since before both of us were born.
Right.
He's this isn't his first rodeo, and Raising Arizona, directors Joel and Ethan Cohen, Holly Hunter, Trey Wilson, John Goodman. It's just one of those movies that is Francis McDermott. It's just one of those, and it's a uniquely Nick Cage movie. He's got the hair and the sideburns and the mustache.
Oh yeah.
And he's playing that guy. And so then it kind of comes to the point where he gets into, as you said, less stage actor-y type performances and more blockbuster movies. And he becomes one of the most bankable stars of the late 90s. This is the run that he went on from 95 to 2000. 95, The Rock. 96, Face Off and Con Air. 98, Snake Eyes and City of Angels. 99, 8mm. 2000, Gone in 60 Seconds. Cage became a certified hit machine in this period. One of the most bankable stars in Hollywood at the time, his mid-90s success begat a period of 10 years where Cage was one of the most popular men in Hollywood, which culminated in the years 2004 to 2007, where he starred in 2 National Treasure films, World Trade Center, Wicker Man, Ghost Rider, Lord of War, and The Weatherman, among others.
This is a complete just murderer's row of movies. When you talk about that, The Rock, all the way to, even through the National Treasure movies. I mean, like you said, a certified hit machine. These movies all absolutely crushed it. And for the most part, a lot of these movies are still insanely rewatchable.
Yeah.
Because they're so ridiculous. All of them in one way, shape, or form. Good, all good ridiculous. I don't mean bad ridiculous at all. I just mean so over the top. I think of these movies, my favorite purely Nick Cage is Face Off. Mm-hmm. That movie is completely insane. He is just up, he's turned the dial to 11. It's completely over the top. This is sort of funny to me that I wonder how many actors, if we really broke it down, how to run this strong when you don't really I don't want to consider maybe Marvel movies can't really be considered because you can say Robert Downey Jr. was in all these movies, made a lot of money, but that's different.
The same character every time.
Yeah, it's the same character, but to play different characters, to not really repeat, the National Treasure movies. Yeah, he's repeating it twice, I guess, or repeating it once, but having it same character twice. There's not too many people that have been able to pull off a run like this, where not only are the movies considered, fairly critically okay, but also they make a ton of money. The only other person I can think of is the 80s run by Tom Cruise with all those movies. And it's still, I don't think it's as strong as this run by Nick Cage.
So I'll come back to that particular question.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some other movies in here that I want to touch on as well that weren't mentioned throughout, the write-up. The Family Man, Captain Corelli's Mandolin, Wind Talkers, adaptation Matchstick Men.
Yep.
Wicker Man, Ghost Rider, Grindhouse, And then things kind of tail off there towards the end. But yeah, I mean, he's got to run. The only other person that I could, because the other thing too is that, we talked about it when we did our first Nick Cage episode, where in a run of like 12 years, he made 42 movies. And by comparison, in that time, Leonardo DiCaprio made 9.
Right.
Or Tom Cruise made 11. I mean, this guy's always working. You know what I mean? He has from 92 until 2003, he has no less than 2 films a year. And
that's
many
crazy.
of those years he has 3.
And we'll get into why he had to make so many movies.
Well, and then yeah, sure. And that kind of comes later, but the only other actor that I could potentially think of that had a run that strong is Christian Bale. And allow me to read off some of those for you. 2006, Rescue Dawn. 2006, The Prestige. 2007, 3:10 to Yuma. I'm sorry, 2005, Batman Begins. 2005, The New World. Rescue Dawn. The Prestige. 2006, 2007, 3:10 to Yuma. 2007, I'm Not There, the Bob Dylan movie. 2008, The Dark Knight. 2009, Public Enemies. The Fighter. 2010, which he won an Academy Award for, Best Supporting Actor. 2012, Dark Knight Rises. 2013, Out of the Furnace and American Hustle. 2015, The Big Short. Things kind of Vice, Ferrari, Ford versus Ferrari. So he had a good run too, but even that, he's not working as much as
it's not 2 movies a year. And yeah, it's crazy.
Right.
And not all those movies, like the Batman movies are obviously blockbusters, but not every one of those other movies was like an actual like certified blockbuster. They may have been good movies for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen all of those, but it is one of those things where like every one of those early Nick Cage movies, part of this part, are all absolute blockbuster killer movies. Like the biggest
in that kind of vein at that time. And really
vein,
a lot of it, I would say some of the Bale blockbusters outside of the Batman movies are kind of flops. Terminator, not that great. Public Enemies, not that great. The Fighter is awesome.
Yeah, the Fighter is awesome.
But some of those other movies, Exodus, Gods and Kings, yeah. But off the top of my head, there's like, that's the best, like, starting really, and Bale's another one who his career goes back way far. In 1987, Empire of the Sun, which is another great movie. But he really starts in 2000, with American Psycho, and then, but it's still not the same level of consistent quality because, like we said, and reading back through that list, like you said, it's a murderer's row of movies in the kind of mid to late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, yeah, I mean, great movies, but there's a reason he had to continue making some of those, making movies at a very breakneck pace. Bad investments, outlandish purchases, and personal hell led to 12 years of exile and VOD movies. Things started to go sideways when Nick made some poor movies: Season of the Witch, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, Ghost Rider 2, and Drive Angry. Cage then went into a period of personal hell and debt brought on by certifiably insane purchases, which we'll get into in a minute. Cage would go on to star in over 42 movies over the next 12 years, mostly straight to VOD releases with some voice work mixed in, such as The Croods and Into the Spider-Verse. Cage recently acknowledged he took as many movies as he could to pay off the debt, but never mailed in any performances. He always found something in each role, and some of the roles became cult classics, such as Joe and Mandy. But it was a pig that brought him back from the darkness. I have a list of 12 absurd things Nicolas Cage actually bought. Some of these aren't. It's funny to me that as I was looking at the list, some of them I was like, that's not that bad. But there's some others. Okay, so number 1, 2 albino king cobras.
The thing is about this is, like they even say in a circle, not 1 but 2.
Right.
That's the thing. He needed 2. My guess is that maybe he needed 2, like, for them to mate. I don't know. It seems weird. They get into like other things about that, but this seems just, I mean, when this isn't the craziest thing on here, though, know we're in for quite a treat going forward.
Yeah. Another not too crazy thing, but also still just totally unnecessary, is he bought a private Gulfstream jet.
See, that's something if I were like crazy rich, I would buy a jet. That'd be cool. You just fly anytime you want. That seems like that's to me, fine purchase if you're rich.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Bezos has a rocket shaped like a dick.
Right, exactly.
So there's that. Number 3, pygmy shrunken heads. So
that is, to me, I think it, and I've gone over this a couple of times, that's the weirdest. Like
that's the one you think's the weirdest?
To me, I think it's the weirdest. It really, like, if I'm in his house and you like just start seeing all these little pygmy shrunken heads, that's gonna freak me out like a lot. I the thing is, I don't like dolls. I don't like any, and so these shrunken heads are gonna get me into even like a worse vibe of that. So that's a no for me, dog.
Okay. Number 4, the first Superman comic. Cage apparently had a comic book collection over $1.6 million, including Action Comics #1, which is the first appearance of Superman, in Detective Comics 38, which introduced Robin. This is a cool one. I would totally buy
this is
that.
cool. This is money. Also, I was like, that's not that much. Like, that's not really an insane purchase. 1.6 million. I mean, for an awesome comic book collection,
right?
Seems rad.
Yeah, definitely. A pyramid tombstone. So this is in New Orleans. This will be where he's buried.
Yep.
And so there's that.
Omni ab uno.
Yeah, that's
translates
what it says
to
in
everything
line.
from 1.
Right. It's 9 foot tall. Pyramid shaped tomb in New Orleans. So moving on, a 67 million year old Tabosaurus skull in which he allegedly outbid Leonardo DiCaprio, valued for the skull valued at over $300,000. However, it was later found out that it had black market roots, and he did in fact give the skull back to the country of Mongolia.
The thing I like about this one is that, like, what if Leo would have won? Like, it would have been such a different story too, because the way Leo is perceived compared to the way like Nick Cage is perceived too. Right. And like it, because this was like more about like, oh good, my gosh, he bought this, but it'd been like, well, Leo didn't know. It's just funny how that would have been a whole different story.
Yeah, if Leo had bought it, it'd have been this like bourgeoisie thing, and now celebrities are buying dinosaur heads. But Nick Cage bought it, so he's crazy.
Yeah.
So the next 3 aren't, in my opinion, too ridiculous.
No.
An octopus, a shark, and a crocodile.
The crocodile is probably the most insane.
More than an octopus?
Well, I think because a crocodile, like an octopus, is not necessarily fine just living in its deal, and they're smart and they can like climb out and do things like that. Right. But a crocodile, I just don't. Where do you keep a crocodile? Like, it's just kind of roaming around in your yard. That's just, you definitely don't have like pets if you have a crocodile. Like, you can have pets if you have a shark, and I guess these are his pets. But if you have a shark and an octopus, you can have pets. You just don't have other things in there with them. I wonder, did the shark and the octopus live together?
Great question.
That's one thing. They would live happily together. The crocodile to me is just like, where do you put it? That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, true.
Not to say ridiculous. It just seems like these are kind of things like people that are a little eccentric by.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip the next two and come back to them.
Okay.
So that makes number 12, the Shah of Iran's Lamborghini for $450,000.
It's pretty cool.
So
He just wanted this Lamborghini. It's a cool Lamborghini. It's a Miura SVJ. So he wanted it, and 450. There's like $1 million like Bugattis out there. So
sure.
I mean,
this
once
was
again,
in the 90s. So.
This is true. So inflation, this is probably almost the equivalent of that. He just really wanted that thing, and like also he gets to say, if somebody's like, "Ooh, I like your car," he's like, "Well, it was the Shah of Iran's actually
it's a
before."
Great icebreaker.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you're, mixed with someone you don't have anything to talk about. We talked about in our Friday episode. Maybe be like, "Oh, you know what I own?"
Yeah, that's
the Shah of
true.
Iran's Lamborghini.
I don't though. The thing that really got Cage in trouble with debt was his real estate portfolio, which included 2 European castles, which he purchased for $10 million and $2.3 million respective, and a $15.7 million countryside estate in Newport, Rhode Island, not to mention a private island and a haunted murder mansion.
The private island one's funny to me because it was a private island right beside Johnny Depp's private island.
Right.
This is sort of funny to me. Like,
yeah.
I mean, at the time they were both kind of perceived the same, and then you kind of realize that like Nick Cage isn't like Johnny Depp at all. Johnny Depp, not a good guy. Nick Cage seems like a fine dude. Yeah, wonderfully fine person. Nothing's come out about him. Johnny Depp's literally embroiled in a thing right now in the courts. And so like, it's sort of funny once again, how like people were perceived and stuff at certain times and the way that things have come out. The haunted murder mansion is, if the pygmy heads were in the murder mansion,
where else do you put them? Where else do you put them? No,
I don't know. But
you got a cat over there?
There's a moth.
Oh, I thought maybe you had a cat.
No,
maybe you moved in the attic.
No. It's bugging me.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
so
that's the thing. I'm scared about the pygmy heads in the murder mansion.
The murder mansion is also in New Orleans and was the basis for Kathy Bates' character in American Horror Story Coven. In the 1980s, or I'm sorry, the 1800s, there was a socialite serial killer named Madame Lalaurie. Yeah, that sounds Cajun.
Yeah, it does.
The house where she lived, killed, and tortured slaves still stands to this day in New Orleans. It was purchased by Cage in 2006 for the sum of $3.45 million. It doesn't say no. Yeah, I think you have to keep the shrunken heads in the murder mansion.
I think you have to. Yeah. It doesn't say, but I think you need to, just to get the aesthetic.
Right. And this is just a list of the top like 12 or 15 things that he bought. Yeah. I know based on the GQ article, he had like a 2-headed snake at one point or another, and a lot of exotic animals. He's like an animal guy.
Yeah. I feel like there's got to be some sort of like wine cave. He seems like someone that would have had like a wine cave.
I'm trying to think what else was mentioned in the GQ article, because they did tour his current home and there was like samurai swords and shit.
Sure. Oh yeah. Got to have that.
While we're here, I also want to, some of these VOD movies, I kind of want to just pick a few.
Okay.
And read the name of the movie as well as the description of the movie. So just at random. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. The Humanity Bureau. Okay. This is starring Nick Cage, Sarah Lynn, Jacob Davies, Hugh Dillon. and a dystopian thriller set in the year 2030 that sees the world in a permanent state of economic recession and facing serious environmental problems as the result of global warming. That's not too crazy.
No.
Mandy. Okay, so this is one of the ones that is actually like fairly well regarded.
Yeah.
And it's Mandy starring Nick Cage, Andrea Riseborough, Linus Roach, Ned Dennehy, no one else of note. The enchanted lives of a couple in a secluded forest are brutally shattered by a nightmarish hippie cult and their demon biker henchmen, propelling a man into a spiraling and surreal rampage of vengeance.
That seems, if I were around a hippie cult, I probably would go that same route.
Yeah. Jiu-Jitsu.
Ooh.
This is a Netflix movie because I actually started to check it out.
Nice.
Every 6 years, an ancient order of jiu-jitsu fighters joins forces to battle a vicious race of alien invaders. But when a celebrated war hero goes down in defeat, the fate of the planet and mankind hangs in the balance. I feel like that's literally the same description as Mortal Kombat.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. Yeah, jiu-jitsu. Check that out on Netflix. Let's just do one more.
I'd like to know how much he got paid for like the video on demand movies.
Oh, it can't be a lot.
No.
He did the Croods in this time. That's pretty well regarded.
Yeah.
That was sort of towards the tail end of him just like making bad high budget movies, though.
Right.
He did the Croods and he did Croods 2. And then he also was Spider-Man Noir in Spider-Verse. This one has to be good. Prisoners of the Ghostland.
Oh my.
A notorious criminal must break.
So
A notorious, I don't know, man. The description for Mandy was pretty good. A notorious criminal
Mandy's
must break an evil curse in order to rescue and abduct a girl who has mysteriously disappeared. The description, not that great. The movie poster looks awesome. And then this was one of our very early trailer reactions. We didn't market it as that. Willy's Wonderland. A quiet drifter is tricked into a janitorial job at the now condemned Willy's Wonderland. The mundane tasks suddenly become an all-out fight for survival against wave after wave of demonic animatronics. Fists fly, kicks land, titans clash, and only one side will make it out alive. I don't know why we didn't watch that, honestly. We should have. Like, the trailer was absurd.
Yeah.
It looked like demented Chuck E. Cheese. Here's a movie that has a pretty preposterous premise. A truffle hunter who lives alone in the Oregon wilderness must return to his past in Portland in search of his beloved foraging pig after she is kidnapped. The movie is Pig.
It is Pig. It's great.
And it was considered the 2021 Indie Darling of the Year. Cage played the truffle hunter Rob. And despite the premise being pretty off the wall, Cage delivered one of the best performances of his career, a performance he considered one of his top 3 and one he would like to be known for in the future. The film served as a reminder to the skill of one of the greatest actors of our time, which rolled into the promotion of the unbearable weight of massive talent, a role Nick Cage was born to play, and that he plays a fictionalized version of himself. Cage, in on the joke, understands his role, that this role can help revitalize his career, and despite initial reservations, did take the role. The end result is a film that debuts nationwide on April 22nd and currently sits at a 97% fresh based on critical scores. Cage has movies lined up to follow, and some are in the VOD lane, but he will star as Lord Dracula in Renfield, a film with a star-studded cast, written by Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman and directed by Chris McKay, who has found great success with the 2 Lego movies. It's safe to say that Cage is back, and it begets the question, what is the ceiling of the reconnaissance?
Well, the thing is I'm I'm glad he like kind of had to do something where he, did these VOD movies. You hate to see someone have to like go through that because of maybe purchase or whatever, but it kind of brought us back to like the Nick Cage is a good actor thing, which if he goes back and does, ridiculous movies that are, fun to watch, that's awesome. But I'm glad that like Pig exists. I'm glad that things had to happen where Pig had to like kind of bring him back in that way where, you and I both thought he should have been nominated, for Academy Award, for sure.
And we
for,
weren't the only ones.
We weren't the only ones.
No. By any stretch of the imagination.
No. It was just, and it's one of those things where like it's one of those things where like if he was, no one would have been. No, he shouldn't have been. Everybody would have been fine with him being nominated, and that's kind of I think the important thing about this reconnaissance is yes, it's cool to have him back in doing like the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which will just be a fun movie. Obviously, like ridiculous the premise. And Renfield sounds like it'll be a fun movie in like some way, shape, or form. But to have Pig exist, which when we did the review, we were like saying this actual description of this movie sounds insane and sounds ridiculous. But then you watch the movie and you're like, wow, like it was just that kind of movie. And I feel like, for us, that's awesome. But for him, it's got to be some sort of like, it sounds weird, but weight off of his shoulders that like now he can maybe go back and do silly movies again, because it's like, I've shown again that I can still be that good actor that you remember me from, but I can also have fun again too. And, because, from that interview in GQ and from the videos I watched for him getting interviewed for, leading up to this movie, he just seems so like joyful.
Yeah.
And that's, you don't notice that with every actor. Sometimes you can tell they're kind of like just doing it for the camera, but he seems like genuinely like happy. And there's like a look in his eye too.
Yeah. We watched a very good percentage of the movies nominated for Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of acting, the story being whatever it is, but in terms of his performance, that movie was every bit as good as some of the other movies we watched.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's not the spectacle of Dune, right? Obviously. It's not the self-importance that was portrayed kind of with The Power of the Dog.
Mm-hmm.
It was the movie that I would honestly kind of compare it probably to the most is the movie that won Best Picture, which is Coda, in that it was just kind of the right movie at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the right movie at the right time for his career, because he's making this movie and it's, he's in on the joke. Like he gets it. We read that GQ article. He doesn't necessarily understand the joke, but he understands it enough to make this movie. But I honestly kind of don't know that this movie is as big of a deal as it is, especially for us, if it weren't for Pig. Because it kind of reminded everybody, like, this guy's got chops. You know what I mean? He's one of the best actors of the last 40 years.
Yeah, and that's like exactly. It's just he needed to make Pig to go back to do Nick Cage movies. Yeah. If that sounds, it sounds weird to say something like that, because he is a good actor. He's a great actor, but his wheelhouse, what we know him for more than anything, is the ridiculous movies, the Con Airs, and the Face Offs. Like that's where we like our Nick Cage most. National Treasure. That's what we like our Nick Cage most. And sometimes you have to like kind of get back to square one to get yourself straight and to get yourself going to where you're actually at. Because I think he probably enjoys making those movies more too.
I don't know. I don't know that he does. I think that he enjoys movies more like Pig or Leaving Las Vegas, or one of the other ones that was really in that VOD period is Joe. It was recommended to me. I haven't watched it, but it was recommended to me that it's just like a really solid movie. I think that those sort of more character performances are what he would prefer to do.
You know what I think it is with him? I think he and I'm not saying this in like I just think he likes making movies.
Yes.
I think he's like, honestly, like, it sounds weird. He's like a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, like movie guy. Like he just wants to make movies. He just really enjoys doing that. the making the money part of it is obviously like nice, but I think he honestly just enjoys doing the craft of it. And like, there's something to be said about that.
Part of his acceptance speech when he won for leaving Las Vegas, he said, I just love acting. You know what I mean? And I think that that's probably something that gets lost on actors as they go through. And you wonder if that's part of what it was with him. Because he started to take these bad roles and stuff like that. And you wonder if he just kind of lost his way for a little bit. And then being forced to go through that VOD phase, but also being the type of stand-up, like work ethic type of guy where he was never going to phone it in. He was always going to give the best performance that he could give on some of those movies, got him back to where he loves acting. I mean, this is all conjecture, obviously. We haven't had the opportunity to interview him yet. But, you know, I think that it's safe to say that, you know, people have been asking, is he back? Yeah.
It's back. He's back.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this.
Yeah. So that'll be our next Monday episode, the review for the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. And we're obviously looking forward to it. We've been talking about it for months. We've been, 2 trailer reaction videos, and we're just in on it. And we cannot wait for this movie. And that's pretty much it for this episode.
Nick Cage of emotion. Glass Cage of emotion. I love it.
Right. Yeah. So you can find us on podcast services around the globe. We publish at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, 4 a.m. Hawaiian.
Aloha.
On Google, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, so on and so forth. You find us on social media at BXG. Facebook.com/BXG Podcast, Instagram at BXG Podcast, at GT Phils, at Y2B, Twitter at BXG Podcast, at GT Filson, at Y2B, and on our YouTube channel at BXG Podcast. Take care, friends. Take the time. Celebrate your local Nick Cage enthusiast.
That's right.
And, go see this movie.
Go see it.
And enjoy it. Don't take the kids because it is rated R.
Yeah, don't take the kids.
So there's that. But take care, friends. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Like, subscribe, ring the bell.
Ring that bell.
Ring that bell.
Woo!
Take care.